Oh my God.
The gun went off. It was loud. So loud that every horse in the town square reared up on their back legs. The sound echoed off the wooden buildings of Dusty Ridge, a small town in the middle of nowhere, where the law was weak and the criminals were strong. The sheriff had fired a warning shot into the air, but this warning shot was not for stopping crime. It was for stopping a man named Black Jack Haley from beating a horse to death. The horse stood in the center of the town square, tied to a wooden post. Its name was Storm. Storm was a gray stallion, strong and muscular, but right now he could barely stand. His body shook with pain and fear. His legs trembled like they were made of paper, not muscle. There were long red marks across his back and sides where a leather whip had cut him again and again. Black Jack Haley stood next to the horse, holding the whip in his right hand. His arm was still raised in the air, ready to strike once more. His face was red with anger. His eyes were cold and mean. He had no mercy in him. He was the kind of man who hurt things because it made him feel powerful. "Keep your whip down, Haley," the sheriff shouted from the other side of the square. Black Jack turned to look at the sheriff. He was a large man, maybe 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. He wore a black cowboy hat and a black coat. A gun hung at his side. He was dangerous, and everyone in the town knew it. "This horse is mine," Black Jack yelled back. "I can do what I want with him." "Not in my town, you can't," the sheriff replied. But everyone knew the sheriff was weak. He was getting old. His hands shook when he held his gun. Black Jack was not afraid of him. Black Jack was not afraid of anyone. The time was late afternoon. The sun was going down, turning the sky orange and purple. The wind was blowing dust across the wooden buildings and dirt streets. The temperature was dropping fast. It was going to be a cold night, and Storm would have to spend it tied to that post, bleeding and suffering. The town square was made of wooden buildings on all 4 sides. There was a saloon on the left, a general store on the right. The sheriff's office was in front. Behind the sheriff's office was the jail, where dangerous men stayed locked up. But Black Jack was not in jail. He was here, free to hurt whoever he wanted. About 50 people stood around the square, watching. They watched from the wooden sidewalks. They watched from the windows of the buildings. They watched from the open doors of the saloon. But they did not move. They did not help. They were afraid of Black Jack Haley. Storm's breathing was shallow and fast. The horse's nostrils flared. His eyes were wide with fear and pain. There was blood on his coat where the whip had cut him. His mane was matted with sweat. His muscles were tight and shaking. He was young, maybe 5 years old, strong and healthy when he was not being beaten. But right now, he looked like a broken toy. Black Jack Haley had come to Dusty Ridge 3 days ago. He rode into town on this horse, Storm, and immediately everyone could see that something was wrong. The horse was thin. Too thin. His ribs showed through his coat like lines on a map. His eyes were empty and scared. He moved slow, like every step hurt. Anyone who knew horses could see that this animal was sick or starving or both. That first night, Black Jack took the horse to the old barn on the edge of town. He tied him there and locked the door. For 3 days no one saw the horse. No one knew if he was still alive. This morning, Black Jack brought the horse to the town square. He tied him to the post in front of everyone. Then he started beating him. No one knew why. Some people said Black Jack was just a cruel man who enjoyed hurting things. Some people said he was angry about something else and was taking it out on the horse. Some people said he was trying to break the horse's spirit to make him mean and dangerous. But the truth was simple. Black Jack was a bad man, and bad men hurt innocent things because they can. The first whip blow came at noon. Storm screamed, an awful high sound that made people cover their ears. The second blow came 15 minutes later, then another, and another. The whip came down again, and each time Storm tried to move away, but he could not. He was tied to the post. He had nowhere to go. By the time the sheriff fired the warning shot, Black Jack had hit the horse at least 30 times. The sheriff stepped forward slowly. He was old, maybe 65 years old. His hair was gray. His face was lined and tired. He moved like his bones hurt. But he had a gun at his side, and he was still the law in Dusty Ridge. "I said put the whip down," he said again, his voice steady but not strong. Black Jack laughed. It was a mean laugh, like the laugh of someone who knows he can hurt people and get away with it. "What are you going to do, old man?" Black Jack said. "Arrest me?" "For what? This is my horse. I can beat him if I want to." "Not in this town," the sheriff said. But Black Jack was already raising the whip again. He was going to keep beating the horse no matter what anyone said. He was going to beat Storm until the horse fell down and did not get back up. Everyone in the town square knew this. They could see it in Black Jack's face. They could see it in the way he held the whip. They could feel it in the air, the feeling that something terrible was about to happen, and nobody could stop it. The whip went up high over Black Jack's shoulder. Storm saw it coming. The horse's eyes went wide with terror. He tried to pull away from the post, but the rope held him tight. The whip came down fast, heading straight for Storm's face. Then something happened that stopped everything. A woman's voice cut through the noise of the crowd. "That's enough." Every person in the square turned to look. A woman on a dark brown horse was riding into the town square from the north road. She wore a long tan coat and a wide hat. Behind her rode 5 other riders. They were coming fast, kicking up dust as their horses ran. Their horses were big and strong. Their riders sat tall and strong. Black Jack Haley stopped. The whip fell to his side. He recognized the woman immediately, and his face went white. It was the ranger.
The ranger's name was Sarah Coulter. She was the most famous lawkeeper in the entire West. People told stories about her. Stories about how she had stopped 12 bank robberies. Stories about how she had caught 30 criminals and brought them to justice. Stories about how she never missed with her gun. Stories about how she was faster than any man, smarter than any sheriff, and harder than any outlaw. But the most important thing about Sarah Coulter was this: she always kept her promises. If she said she would arrest someone, that person got arrested. If she said she would find someone, that person got found. If she said she would help someone, that person got helped. In a wild west where people lied all the time and promises meant nothing, Sarah Coulter was different. Her word was like iron. It could not bend. It could not break. She rode into the town square like she owned it. Her horse was a black stallion named Midnight. Midnight was as famous as Sarah herself. The two of them had ridden together for 7 years, and they moved like one animal, not two. When Sarah leaned left, Midnight turned left. When Sarah pulled the reins, Midnight stopped instantly. They were a team. They were a unit. They were unstoppable. The 5 riders behind Sarah were her deputies. They were all good men, all strong men, all men who believed in the law and would fight to protect it. They wore matching brown coats with a ranger badge on the chest. They carried rifles and pistols. They looked serious and ready for action. Sarah pulled Midnight to a stop about 20 feet away from Black Jack Alley. She did not speak right away. She just looked at him. Her eyes were cold and gray, like winter steel. There was no emotion in her face. No anger. No fear. Just calm and quiet power. Black Jack tried to look away, but he could not. Sarah's eyes held him like a rope. "Black Jack Haley," Sarah said, her voice clear and strong. "I am placing you under arrest for animal cruelty, illegal possession of a stolen horse, and public endangerment. You have no authority here." Black Jack shouted back, but his voice was shaking. His hand with the whip was trembling. "I have authority everywhere," Sarah replied. "The State Ranger Service gave me that power. The governor gave me that authority. And every town in this territory asked me to protect them. So yes, I have authority here. I have authority over you." She pointed at him with one long finger. "Drop the whip," she commanded. Black Jack did not move. His mind was racing. He was thinking about running. He was thinking about fighting. He was thinking about anything except giving up. "I said drop it," Sarah said again, and this time there was something different in her voice. There was a warning in it, a promise that if he did not obey, something bad would happen. Black Jack's hand shook. The whip fell to the ground. "Good," Sarah said. She turned to one of her deputies, a young man named Tom. "Tom, get that whip and burn it. Then untie the horse and bring him to my wagon. We have a veterinarian waiting at the next town." Tom nodded and climbed down from his horse. He walked over to the whip, picked it up, and walked toward the saloon. He was going to burn it in the fireplace. Tom knew the plan. The whip was evidence of Black Jack's cruelty, and it would never be used to hurt anything again. The sun was getting lower now. The orange and purple sky was turning to dark red. The shadows were getting longer. The wind was getting colder. It felt like the whole town was holding its breath. Storm the horse had stopped shaking for a moment. He could sense that something was changing. Something was happening that might help him. His ears perked up. His eyes looked towards Sarah. It was like the horse knew that this woman was different from other people. It was like the horse knew that this woman could save him. Sarah rode midnight forward slowly, step by step. She was moving straight toward Black Jack. He tried to back away, but one of Sarah's deputies moved his horse to block him. Black Jack had nowhere to go. Sarah stopped just 5 feet away from him. "You stole this horse from a ranch in Colorado," Sarah said, not as a question, but as a fact. "The owner reported him missing 6 weeks ago. I have a picture of Storm. I have the ranch marks on his left shoulder. I have evidence that you bought him illegally from a horse thief named Miller." "I don't know what you're talking about," Black Jack yelled. "Yes, you do," Sarah said calmly. She pulled a piece of paper from her coat pocket and held it up. It was a wanted poster. A picture of Black Jack Halley was on it. Above the picture it said, "Wanted for horse theft, animal cruelty, armed robbery." The reward amount at the bottom was $500. "That poster came out 3 weeks ago," Sarah explained. "Since then, 7 people have sent me information about where you were. One of them was the bartender at the saloon in the town south of here. He saw you come through. He saw the horse. He reported it to the ranger service. I got on my horse and rode north. Now here you are." Black Jack's face was white. Sweat was running down his forehead. His whole body was shaking now, not from anger but from fear. "You have 2 choices," Sarah said. "You can come with me peacefully, and you'll get a fair trial in front of a judge. You will have a lawyer. You'll have a chance to explain yourself. You might spend 10 years in prison. Or you can resist, and we will fight, and you'll get hurt, and then you will still go to prison, but you will go with broken bones and scars." She paused, letting that sink in. "Which choice do you want to make?" Black Jack looked at Sarah. Then he looked at the 5 deputies surrounding him. Then he looked at the people in the town square, watching from the sidewalks and windows. Then he looked down at his hands. He understood. He had lost. There was no way to win. There was no escape. "I'll come quietly," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Good choice," Sarah said. She signaled to one of her deputies, a big man named Marcus. Marcus rode forward and took Black Jack's gun and knife. He took Black Jack's hands and put iron handcuffs on them. The metal was cold and heavy. Meanwhile, Tom had already untied Storm from the post. The young horse was standing on shaky legs, but he was standing. Tom was speaking to him softly, telling him it was okay, that he was safe now. Storm's breathing was still fast, but it was becoming more calm. Sarah rode over to Storm and looked at him carefully. "Poor boy," she whispered. She reached down and touched his neck gently. "You're going to be okay now. I promise." Storm's I looked up at her. It was like the horse was saying thank you. It was like the horse was saying he believed her. As the sun went down completely, painting the sky in shades of dark purple and black, Sarah Coulter's team was ready to leave Dusty Ridge. Black Jack sat on a horse between 2 deputies, his hands cuffed, his head down. Storm walked beside Sarah's wagon, where he would be safe and cared for. The veterinarian was waiting in the next town, ready to treat the horse's wounds. The people of Dusty Ridge came out to watch them leave. They watched the famous ranger ride out with the criminal and the rescued horse. They understood that they had seen something important that day. They had seen the law win. They had seen justice arrive on a black horse. The old sheriff stood on the sidewalk and nodded at Sarah as she passed. Sarah nodded back. "Good work, Ranger," he said. The veterinarian's office was in a town called Silver Creek, a bigger town than Dusty Ridge, with real buildings made of brick instead of just wood. The veterinarian's name was Dr. Marcus Webb. He was an old man, maybe 70 years old, with white hair and kind eyes. He had been treating horses for 40 years. He had seen horses recover from terrible wounds. But he had also seen horses that were hurt so badly that they never recovered at all. Sarah walked beside Storm as they entered the veterinarian's office. The horse was moving slowly, still in pain, still afraid. But there was something different about him now. The fear was less. The pain was still there, but it was not controlling him anymore. He was learning to trust Sarah. Dr. Webb looked at Storm and made a sad face. "This poor animal," he said quietly. "How long has he been beaten like this?" "We don't know exactly," Sarah replied. "But we think several weeks, maybe months. The wounds are old. Some are infected." Dr. Webb nodded slowly. He had seen this before. He knew what it meant. "I can help him," the doctor said. "But it will take time. A lot of time. His body needs medicine. His wounds need cleaning and bandaging. But mostly he needs rest. He needs food. He needs quiet. And he needs to learn that humans are not always cruel." "How long?" Sarah asked. "For months, maybe 5, Dr. Webb said. If everything goes well. If he gets infected, if something goes wrong, it could be longer." Or, he did not finish the sentence. "He did not need to. He will recover," Sarah said firmly. It was not a question. It was not even a hope. It was a statement of fact. Sarah believed it. And when Sarah believed something, it usually became true. Dr. Webb smiled. "I will do my best for him," he said. The waiting room of the veterinarian's office was small and plain. There were wooden chairs and a wooden desk. There were pictures of horses on the walls. There were bottles of medicine on shelves. It smelled like hay and medicine and clean water. Sarah sat in one of the wooden chairs and waited. She had sent word to the town marshal that she had captured Black Jack Halley. She was waiting for a transport wagon to come and take the prisoner to the county jail, where he would wait for his trial. She was also waiting to hear back from the ranch owner in Colorado. The ranch owner's name was William Foster. He had reported Storm missing 6 weeks ago. Sarah had sent him a telegram describing the horse. The white mark on his nose, the brown spot on his left shoulder, the small scar on his right front leg. The telegraph operator had replied, "Horse matches description, stop. Please hold for owner arrival. Stop Foster coming by train, stop. ETA 3 days, stop." So Sarah waited. On the second day, while Sarah was sitting in the veterinarian's waiting room reading an old newspaper, the door opened and a man walked in. He was not William Foster. He was a younger man, maybe 40 years old, with a hard face and hard eyes. He wore expensive clothes, a fancy suit, a gold watch chain, a silver-handled cane. He looked like he had money, but not the kind of money you made from honest work. He looked like the kind of man who made money by doing dishonest things. "I'm looking for a gray stallion," the man said to Sarah. "I believe it is here. I believe it belongs to me." Sarah stood up slowly. She did not know who this man was, but something about him made her feel uncomfortable. Something about him made her feel that he was dangerous in a different way than Black Jack Halley. Black Jack was dangerous because he was violent. This man was dangerous because he was smart. "The horse is being treated by the veterinarian," Sarah said carefully. "The owner is William Foster from Colorado. A horse matching this description was reported stolen from his ranch." The man smiled, but it was not a nice smile. It was a smile that showed teeth, but not kindness. "My name is Victor Cross," the man said, "and I'm the real owner of that horse. William Foster bought him from me illegally. I have papers to prove it. The horse's real name is not Storm. It is Prince. Prince is a very valuable animal. He is worth $5,000. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Show me these papers," she said. Victor Cross pulled some documents from his jacket pocket. They looked old and official. They had signatures and dates. They looked real. But Sarah had learned a long time ago that papers could be fake. Documents could be forged. Smart criminals knew how to make things look real when they were not. "These are interesting," Sarah said, looking at them carefully, "but I think they are false." "You think I am lying?" Victor Cross said, and his voice became cold and hard. "I think you might be," Sarah replied. "And I think you are here because you heard that a valuable horse was found. I think you came here hoping to claim him and sell him to someone else for more money." Victor Cross's face went red with anger. "You have no right to keep my horse," he shouted. "I have legal papers. I have proof. You are breaking the law by holding him. Sarah stepped forward so she was very close to Victor Cross. I am holding the horse because he is evidence in a criminal case, she said, her voice steady and calm. Black Jack Hallie stole him. I have proof of that. Until his trial is over, until we know what really happened, the horse stays here. You can present your papers to the judge. The judge will decide if they are real or fake. The judge will decide who the real owner is, and I will follow the judge's decision. And if I refuse to wait? Victor Cross asked, and his hand moved towards something under his jacket. Sarah's hand moved to her gun faster than his hand could move. Her pistol was pointed at his chest before he could even finish reaching. Don't, she said simply. Victor Cross froze. He understood. He had lost this moment. This woman was faster than him. This woman was more dangerous than him. He had made a mistake coming here and trying to threaten her. I will take this to court, he said, stepping backward and raising his hands. I will get my horse. You will see. Maybe, Sarah said, keeping her gun pointed at him. But not today. Today you're going to leave this town. And if you come back, I will arrest you for attempted bribery and threatening a law officer. Victor Cross turned and walked quickly out of the office. They heard his horse ride away fast, heading south, leaving Silver Creek. Sarah put her gun back in its holster. She sat back down in the wooden chair, but her mind was racing. She had dealt with Black Jack Hallie. That was simple. He was a bad man who had done bad things. But Victor Cross was different. He was smart. He had papers that looked real. He had a story that sounded possible. What if some of what he said was true? What if Storm's real owner was not clear? What if two people claimed to own the horse, and both of them had some kind of proof? What if the judge could not decide who the real owner was? Where would the horse go then? On the third day, William Foster arrived. He was older, maybe 65 years old, with a weathered face and kind hands. He went into the veterinarian's office and looked at Storm. When he saw the horse, tears came to his eyes. Prince, he whispered, is that really you? But Storm did not respond the way a horse usually responds to his owner. Storm did not jump or make excited sounds. Storm just stood there, looking at this stranger. He doesn't remember you, Dr. Webb said gently. No, William Foster agreed. After what he has been through, he has forgotten everything. He has forgotten his old home. He has forgotten me. He turned to Sarah. There is something you need to know, he said. Something about this horse. Something that might change everything. Sarah sat down on a wooden bench outside the veterinarian's office. The sun was warm on her face. The wind was gentle. It was a beautiful day in Silver Creek. But inside the veterinarian's office, there was a heavy feeling like a storm was coming. William Foster sat beside her. He was looking down at his hands. His hand was shaking slightly. He was nervous about telling the story. He was nervous about what Sarah would think of him after she heard the truth. Storm is not just any horse, William Foster began. He is special. He is valuable. But not in the way Victor Cross thinks he is valuable. Sarah waited. She did not speak. She had learned long ago that sometimes people needed silence to tell their truth. Sometimes people needed quiet to find their courage. 15 years ago, William Foster continued, I had a son. His name was Michael. Michael was 14 years old. He was a good boy, smart, kind. He loved horses more than anything in the world. His dream was to become a horse trainer. His dream was to work with the best horses in the West and teach them to be gentle and strong. Sarah listened. She could hear the love and sadness in William Foster's voice. Michael wanted a horse of his own, William Foster said. A horse that he could train. A horse that he could raise from young to old. Victor Cross had a horse then, a young stallion, only 2 years old. Victor Cross called him Prince. Victor Cross did not care about the horse. He only cared about money. He said he would sell Prince to me for $500. So you bought the horse, Sarah said. I bought the horse, William Foster confirmed. I brought him home to my ranch. Michael was so happy. He was happier than I had ever seen him. Michael spent every day with that horse. He talked to him. He taught him. He brushed him. He fed him. The horse and the boy became like brothers. They were inseparable. William Foster stopped for a moment. His eyes were wet with tears. What happened? Sarah asked gently. Michael died, William Foster said. The words were simple, but they carried so much pain. He died when he was 16 years old. It was a riding accident. He fell from a horse. Not from Prince, from another horse. He hit his head on a rock. He did not wake up. Sarah placed her hand on William Foster's shoulder. She did not say anything. Sometimes there were no words for this kind of sadness. After Michael died, William Foster continued, I could not bear to be around the ranch. I could not bear to see all the places where Michael had been. Every corner, every fence, every barn, everything reminded me of him. So I sold the ranch. I sold almost everything. But I could not sell Prince. I could not do it. Prince was the only connection I had left to my son. Prince was the only thing that Michael loved that I could still hold and touch. He paused, collecting himself. I kept Prince, William Foster said. I moved to Colorado. I started a new ranch. I took care of Prince. I raised him. I trained him. I did everything that Michael would have wanted me to do. And Prince became a beautiful horse. He became the horse that Michael had always wanted him to be. Sarah began to understand now. She began to see the real story hidden underneath the simple facts. Victor Cross wanted him back, Sarah said. It was not a question. Yes, William Foster nodded. About a year ago, Victor Cross came to my ranch. He said that Prince was worth thousands of dollars now. He said that he had made a mistake selling the horse to me for so little money. He said that he wanted to buy him back for $5,000. But you refused, Sarah said. I refused, William Foster confirmed. I told him that Prince was not for sale. I told him that Prince was part of my family. I told him that he belonged on my ranch and nowhere else. Sarah frowned slightly. She was beginning to see the problem. Victor Cross must have been very angry, Sarah said. He was angry, William Foster agreed. He said I was being foolish. He said that I was wasting a valuable animal by keeping him on a small ranch. He said that he would find a way to get Prince back. He said that he would do whatever it took. And then Storm disappeared, Sarah said. Yes, William Foster said, and his voice became even sadder. 3 months ago, someone stole Prince from my ranch. I searched everywhere. I asked everyone. I posted notices in every town. No one knew where he had gone. I thought I had lost him forever. I thought that Victor Cross had stolen him and sold him to someone else. He looked at Sarah with eyes full of pain. But then you captured Black Jack Halley, William Foster said, and you found Prince, and you brought him here, and I found him again. Sarah stood up and walked to the window of the veterinarian's office. She could see Storm through the window. The horse was standing in a clean stall. Clean water was in a bucket beside him. Fresh hay was on the ground. Dr. Webb was putting medicine on the wounds on Storm's back. So Victor Cross is not the real owner, Sarah said. No, William Foster said firmly. I have the bill of sale. I have the documents. I have proof that I bought Prince legally from Victor Cross 15 years ago. Whatever papers Victor Cross showed you, they are false. He is lying. I know, Sarah said. I already knew that his papers were forged. I could tell by looking at them. But I wanted to hear your story first. I wanted to understand why 2 men were fighting over this horse. She turned back to William Foster. The question now is what we do about it, Sarah said. Victor Cross is dangerous. He has already shown that he will lie and threaten people to get what he wants. He will not accept losing this horse. He will come back. I know, William Foster said. That is why I am afraid. You should not be afraid, Sarah said. She moved back and sat beside him again. You have a law on your side. You have me on your side. And you have something else that is more important than any of those things. What? William Foster asked. You have love, Sarah said simply. You loved your son. You love that horse because of your son. That love is the only thing that matters. That love is real. Victor Cross's love is not real. His love is money. His love is greed. That kind of love is easy to fight. That kind of love is easy to defeat. William Foster looked at Sarah with wonder in his eyes. He saw something in her that he had not expected to see in a ranger. He saw a person who understood that the law was not just about rules and justice. The law was about protecting people and animals that could not protect themselves. What happens now? William Foster asked. Now, Sarah said, we wait for Victor Cross to come back. And when he comes back, I will arrest him. I will arrest him for forgery. I will arrest him for attempted theft. I will arrest him for threatening me. and he will go to jail for a very long time. She paused. And Storm, or Prince, as you call him, will go home with you, back to your ranch in Colorado, and he will learn to trust humans again, and he will live a good life, and he will be part of your family, and that will be justice. That night, as the sun went down over Silver Creek, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sarah Coulter sat outside the veterinarian's office and cleaned her gun. She was waiting. She knew that Victor Cross would not accept defeat. She knew that he would come back. She knew that he would try something desperate. Men like Victor Cross always did. Sarah was ready. William Foster sat down in one of the wooden chairs. His hands were shaking. His eyes were red. He looked like a man carrying a heavy secret that he had kept for a very long time. "Storm is my horse," he said slowly. But Victor Cross was telling the truth about one thing. "I did buy him from Victor Cross, but I did not buy him legally." Sarah listened carefully. She did not interrupt. She had learned that sometimes people needed to tell their whole story before they could get to the important part. 7 years ago, I bought this horse from Victor Cross for $200, William Foster continued. At that time, I thought Victor Cross was a horse trader. I thought he bought and sold horses legally. But later, I learned the truth. I learned that Victor Cross was a thief. He stole horses from people. He sold them to other people who did not ask questions. I was one of those people. He paused and looked out the window. I did not know the horse was stolen when I bought him. But after I learned the truth, I was faced with a choice. I could give the horse back to the real owner, or I could keep him because he was mine now, because I had paid money for him, because I loved him. He looked at Sarah. "I kept him," he said quietly. "I kept the stolen horse because I wanted to keep him. And for 6 years, I was happy with that decision. But then, one day, a man came to my ranch. He said he was looking for a horse. He said the horse had been stolen from him 7 years ago. He said his name was Thomas Everett." Sarah felt something shift in her understanding of the story. "Thomas Everett?" she asked. "Yes," William Foster said. "He was a wealthy man from back east. He had come to Colorado to start a horse breeding business. He bought this horse, Storm or Prince or whatever his real name is, for $3,000. But Victor Cross stole him before Thomas Everett even got him home." William Foster's voice became quieter. "Thomas Everett offered me $5,000 to give him back the horse. I refused. He offered me $10,000. I still refused. He was angry, and he left. But I knew then that what I had done was wrong. I had stolen from someone just as much as Victor Cross had stolen from him. I had just stolen him later, and for a different reason." He stood up and walked to the window where he could see into the veterinarian's treatment room. Storm was lying down on clean straw, a bandage on his side, medicine on his wounds. The horse was healing. The horse was going to be okay. "About a year ago, Thomas Everett came back," William Foster said. "He was sick. He had traveled across the country looking for his horse. He had spent all his money searching for him. He had made himself sick with worry and sadness. When he came to my ranch, he was dying." William Foster's voice cracked. "He asked me one more time to give him his horse. I said no. I told him the horse was mine. I told him to leave. And he did. 3 months later, I heard that he had died. He died without ever seeing his horse again." Sarah understood now why William Foster was telling her this story. "You want to give the horse back to his real owner," Sarah said. "It was not a question. I want to do the right thing," William Foster said. "But Thomas Everett is dead. He has no family here. He has no one to give the horse back to. So I have decided to give the horse to someone who will care for him, someone who will make sure he is treated well, someone who will make sure he never suffers again." He turned to look at Sarah. "I want to give him to you," he said. "I want you to keep him, or I want you to find someone to keep him. Someone good, someone kind. But he cannot come back to my ranch. Every time I look at him, I remember what I did to Thomas Everett. I remember the choice I made, and it is a choice that makes me ashamed." Sarah did not speak for a long moment. She was thinking about justice. She was thinking about what was fair. She was thinking about what was right. "I will keep the horse," she finally said. "I will take care of him, and I will make sure he lives a good life. That is the best thing you can do now. That is how you honor Thomas Everett's memory." William Foster nodded. He looked smaller now, like the secret he had been carrying had finally been lifted from his shoulders. The trial of Black Jack Haley took place 2 weeks later in the county courthouse. Sarah testified about finding him beating the horse. She testified about the stolen property. She testified about the animal cruelty. The judge listened to everything. He looked at the evidence. He made his decision. Guilty, the judge said, on all counts. Sentenced to 5 years in prison. Black Jack was taken away. He would spend 5 years locked in a cell, thinking about what he had done. It was not as much punishment as some people thought he deserved. But it was justice. It was the law. It was fair. Victor Cross never came back to Silver Creek. Sarah learned later that he had been arrested in the next territory for forging documents and fraud. He was going to spend a long time in prison as well. 6 months later, Storm was almost completely healed. His wounds had closed. His coat was shiny and healthy again. His ribs were no longer showing. His muscles were strong. His eyes were bright and alive. He was a beautiful horse again. Sarah took him to a quiet ranch outside of Silver Creek. The ranch belonged to a woman named Margaret. Margaret was kind and gentle. She had raised horses her whole life. She had never hurt an animal. She loved horses the way they deserve to be loved. He has been through terrible things, Sarah told Margaret. He will not trust easily. He will be afraid sometimes. But if you're patient with him, if you're kind to him, I think he will be okay. I think he will be happy. Margaret put her hand on Storm's neck. The horse did not pull away. The horse did not show fear. Instead, Storm turned to look at Margaret, and for the first time since his rescue, the horse made a small, soft sound. A sound of trust. A sound of hope. Sarah watched from her horse, Midnight. The ranger had done her job. The criminal had been caught and punished. The stolen horse had been returned to safety. The truth had been uncovered. Justice had been done. But Sarah knew that this was not just about punishment. This was about healing. This was about giving something broken a chance to become whole again. This was about showing that even after terrible suffering, there could be a good ending. As Sarah rode Midnight out of the ranch, the sun was setting over the desert hills. The sky turned orange and purple, just like it had that day in Dusty Ridge when she first met Storm. She thought about Thomas Everett, who had died without seeing his horse. She thought about William Foster, who had finally done the right thing. She thought about Black Jack Haley, sitting in a prison cell. She thought about the horse, Storm, learning to trust again. And she thought about something that Dr. Webb had said to her. He needs to learn that humans are not always cruel. Sarah looked back one more time. In the distance, she could see Margaret and Storm standing together in the field. The horse was eating grass. The horse was calm. The horse was safe. The horse never ran again, Sarah whispered to herself. At least not for a long time. But he did something better. He learned to live without fear. He learned to trust. And that, in the end, is what saved him. The end.